I actually ran the store or the truck into a big garbage bin one day downtown Toronto. Imagine like a little like 19-year-old driving this huge truck in the streets. It was hilarious. Oh no, we give it doesn't matter your gender, your race, any of that. Like we give everyone the fair shot. And then you look at it and it's still like the one woman and she's your CMO, and then you have like all like surrounded by the rest of like the male senior leadership. I think it's like, again, it's what you're saying. We think there's only these limited spots, and we almost create that competition within ourselves to get this one spot. Because we're not rising together, we're not being able to break that mold.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sitting down with Nicole Harvey today, my good friend. Nicole, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Thank you so much, Cass, for having me on. I'm so excited. Big fan of everything that you're building. My name is Nicole Harvey. I was born and raised outside of Toronto. I've been living, all over the States. I've kind of bopped around for the past 8 years, but I'm not right now residing in Chicago. So love the Midwest. Had a little brief stint in New York. Back for the week. Love the energy that New York brings. You know what it's like.
I love it. Yeah, we're both actually Chicago girls.
Yes, we are.
So that's really fun. And
with like New York hearts.
For sure. Yeah, we're here every month, and you very much, I feel like I was surprised to learn that you actually live in Chicago, because every New York event I go to, you're at. So I was like, oh, she's a New York girly. Like this is where she is.
I do love it. It's such a hustle here, but sometimes you need a little break, and that Midwest will do it for you.
I love Chicago so much. Everyone loves Chicago.
Especially summertime shy.
We're approaching it.
We are. We're so close. We're getting over that hump.
I feel it.
Yeah, me too. But yes, I am the founder of empowHER, which is a community and platform really helping women break and shatter those glass ceilings that we still unfortunately face. I bring women together on a community level with hosting multiple different events around different industries and topics and themes. Only a year and a half old, but I'm on close to almost like my 10th event and have hosted we're over like 400 women the past year. So it's growing fiercely. My motto is to grow it slowly because it's not a race. And I'm just really excited about all the things that kind of lie ahead for us. This is really, I think, like women's time.
And I think it speaks to, like, it's so amazing for me to see how your organization is growing so quickly. And I think it speaks to this collective desire among women to have these spaces to authentically connect and support each other. And I think there's just like collective tiredness over gender disparity, certainly in our spheres in tech, but it goes way beyond tech, of course. I think.
Yeah, I mean, gender parity, it's interesting. I was going to get into this a little bit later, but why don't we just jump into it? Because I love these conversations, and I think I love to always like set the tone. It's really like, yes, this is like the anti-boys club, of course, but it's also like not about that. There's a lot of amazing men that are huge supporters in women's corners and are allies and will do a lot for our own community. But it's also about understanding that there is still a gap and recognizing that. I read something the other day. It's like, it's between like 130 to like 170 years before we actually reach gender parity. Like that is insane. That's 5 generations away. And it's just like, why does it have to be 5 generations away? Why can't that be sooner? And why? And what are those barriers still that we're still trying to overcome? I mean, I think personally, and I'm going to get really real with this, in the fact that I think we like to think that society and time has evolved and people have evolved and corporations have evolved and in ways they most definitely have. But I would still say I think we've just gotten better at masking it in different ways. I think there's still there's gaps in every corporations where women should be in certain fields of power and they're just not.
And there's rhetoric, and then there's actual real world conditions and legislation. And if you look at, leadership teams and kind of the composition, you can't deny the facts of how things are. But all that to say, I am so happy to be interviewing you today because I feel like we really are, we're like-minded women. And when we met up in Chicago, I felt like that was like a very authentic connection we had because we both are so passionate about elevating women, seeing more women in leadership, and being that big sister person. But I wish I could have, actually I did have some amazing mentors in my career, but I just want to pay that forward and do as much as I can.
It's so
and
important.
I know that you're like that too.
Well, I think like one of the things, and you and I have talked about that, it is like that sisterhood in ways. ways, like, I don't think that will ever go away. That's so big for me. I mean, I was raised by a single mom that is an amazing entrepreneur. The fact that I got to witness her create something from the beginning. I was, I don't know, maybe 6 years old when she started, and I'm in my 30s now, and she sold her 4 businesses. It's amazing to see that evolution. It's come with a lot of hardship, but I mean, I had my mentor right from when I was a little girl in my own home, and I saw that work ethic and I saw that determination, but I also saw the pain that it took, that she went through in order to build what she did. And it's not an easy road. And I don't think, and I think, you know, anybody can do anything. You just have to actually make that move and take that leap. And even, you know, you with how she got here, it's like we are both in the ecosystem of Shopify. We're in the e-commerce space. Yeah. So we know that the day-to-day of what we do is amazing, but it's like we need more and we want to do more. So taking that step and doing that is like the first thing to do. So like creating a podcast, creating a community of like events and people to bring together. These are all things that will make a difference in the long run.
Yeah. And, you know, on the topic of events, we collaborated on a dinner party for the first season of this podcast, and it was so fun and cool.
It was. 33 women came out.
And it was, what I thought was super cool was the composition of the women who came. It was women who are very established in their careers, maybe successfully exited companies. Some women who are in their 20s and they're starting companies. And so I was just so excited to see this group to come together. And it was really beautiful. Thank you so much for being a part of it, because you brought some amazing women there. And also when it came time to give the speeches before the dinner, I got so, I don't know what it is, even though I'm like talking on a podcast, I got really scared.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really intimidating to talk in front of people.
She was like amazing. She was just like, yes, thank you for saying this is why we're bringing everyone together. But yeah, it was a great event. And Nicole, she runs these all the time, events for women with empowHER. So I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm talking about events and your organization, but I do want to talk about your life leading up to you now. How you got here. So let's start from the beginning. You're from Canada.
So I am from Canada.
Your mom is a powerhouse. So.
My mom, from Canada. Mom's a powerhouse. Also have to shout out to my dad, because he will watch this and be like, what about me? And then he's an entrepreneur too. So I think that's where I get it from both my parents. But born and raised outside of Toronto, a city called Kitchener. A lot of people are familiar with Kitchener-Waterloo, very known for their amazing universities. Fun fact about me, and not a lot of people know this, and I was embarrassed all through my 20s to talk about this, but I did not finish university. I really struggled with education in school. I struggle with dyslexia very bad, a little ADD, kind of all over the place. And when
I see you as so type A though, so that's very
it's really weird. I think it's something that I've always struggled with. Reading and writing, horrible. Mathematics, my mom will know this for a fact, horrible. But yeah, so when I went to school, I always actually wanted to be in fashion. I wanted to be a buyer. And when I was growing up, Rachel from Friends was like my idol. I was like, I want to be a buyer for like Neiman Marcus or Bloomingdale's. Like that was like the goal. And so I went to school in Toronto for fashion commerce. It was a 4-year program, and I struggled. It was really hard for me to focus. I always just wanted to jump into work. That's all I've ever wanted to do was work. And it was probably because I've watched my parents just grind. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to skip education and I wanted to get right into building something for myself. And along the way, I actually an amazing opportunity for a young woman fell on my lap. And that was to be part of this really cool startup and opportunity called Fashion Truck Canada. The concept was really taking an old delivery truck and converting it into a store on wheels, right? And we would go to different festivals. We would go all around Toronto. We would do pop-ups. I actually ran the store or the truck into a big garbage bin one day downtown Toronto.
Amazing.
Imagine like a little like 19-year-old driving this huge truck in the streets. It was hilarious. The founder, Ashley, always had said like, we need cameras. Like we need our own reality TV show. Like I learned how to start a truck. We dealt with the draw. It was funny. It was just like 2 young women trying to make this business work. Shout out to her because her business is thriving in Toronto and she has been able to turn it into something amazing. But that was like my first moment into being an entrepreneur. We were going to LA and doing all our buying. I was dealing with like the Shopify, the system itself and the platform and creating the site and all those things. And that's when I knew I was like, I want to continue this on. But at the same time, when you're that age, you're told to go into more of a corporate setting.
Yeah.
And that led me to my first corporate corporate job. I didn't finish university, but I did go get my diploma. That's what we call it in Canada. And went to a local college and I studied business and it was fine. It was fine and I did it.
But you got your diploma, so you did.
So I did. Yeah, I guess like if it's like I didn't get my university degree. And I was so ashamed of that for so long. Like I did not tell people that because you're told to go get your 4-year degree.
It doesn't matter though.
I know. Like, I mean, I think I'm case in point. So like when I got my first job I worked at TJX Corporation, which is the corporation that owns TJ Maxx, Marshalls, my Canadians, Winners, Home Goods, HomeSense, and I got my first job and I started in their buying program at 21, 22, and I was the only non-university degree that started with a program. There was probably like 20 of us that started and all of them had very amazing educations.
Not to say that it doesn't matter. I'm saying get your education, but whether you got your diploma from
100%.
Whatever, a community college, a state school versus that doesn't really, it's what you do with it
100%.
And how you show up in the workplace and like what you can do. And your degree and all that can maybe make things smooth. It can
smoother.
A little smoother. But if you really want something and you work really hard, case in point, I'm
a firm believer that anybody can achieve anything they want. You see somebody doing something and you want to do it. And I would love to talk about this too, because and we can get into it, women and jealousy and competition, but you see somebody doing something and they're thriving at it, you can thrive at it. It might not be the exact same and it shouldn't be the exact same, but we are all capable to achieving
of anything
our
at any time.
Anytime.
Yeah.
You could literally start, and you know, my mom didn't start her actual company until she was in her mid-40s.
That's amazing.
Right?
I love that.
And she had an amazing years of running her company. So point taken, yes, education. I think this is really a topic that we kind of shy away from too. It's like, go get your degree. I think you're seeing a lot more. Like there's a lot of influencers that don't finish school because they found their passion. They found what they're really good at. Or founders, you know, there's a lot of founders I've met along my way and they're like, oh yeah, no, I dropped out and I started my company. They might have failed once or twice, but they never gave up. So I started my career in Canada at the Toronto office, Mississauga to be correct, and I was in this buying program. And it was then too, I had amazing women mentors. My shout out to Joyce Lee, she is the GM. TJX acquired a company in Australia. I got to work on that vertical. It was like the most amazing opportunity, directly working at 23 years old with a lot of the executive team. That doesn't happen a lot. I just had this, I was like, I just want to be an amazing buyer. I want to be Joyce Lee. How do I do it? But Joyce and team were like, you have to follow, like you have to pay your dues. You have to do the grunt work to get there. And I was so willing to do that. But I'm a type of person, if it's not going fast enough for me and I think I'm ready for the next challenge, I tend to just jump into the next challenge. And that next challenge brought me to Wayfair. And it was the move from Toronto to Boston. And I was, 23, turning 24 when I moved to Boston. Never been there before. I had a month to find a place, figure it out, and start this amazing, at the time, what was like my dream job at like an amazing tech company and retailer. And that opened so many doors for me. Yeah. That one job changed my life. The people there changed my life. It's not a cutthroat environment by any means. It was actually the opposite, but it was a sink or swim environment. I mean, you were working, I talk about, I think, imposter syndrome and not wanting to talk about my education. Everybody I worked with was Ivy League. Every leader, just manager level, had their MBA. And it was schools like Harvard and Wharton and all that. And I didn't have my degree. So I felt very talk about fish out of water, right? And then they told me I wanted to stay there and grow and go the manager route. But they were like, in order to do this on the timeline you have to go get your MBA. That just was not an option for me. I don't believe it's really at this point when you're saying you don't need those layers of education. I think in some cases you definitely will. You need them or you might want them. But for me, I was like, I don't need to go do this. And that's when I actually just started. I went to the other side. I went to go work for wholesalers and brands that worked with the Wayfairs, the Amazons, the Walmart, and I worked for some really cool home and storage companies and ran their e-commerce. And that's where I just found this huge passion for the industry that I'm still in, working with D2C and building strategies and A/B testing everything, starting from scratch all the time. time and really understanding what your consumer wants. And then that really led me to my current role at Recharge. And Recharge found me 3 years ago. And it was such a weird time because I really wanted to break into tech. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I've been on an e-com for a long time. I've worked for these amazing companies. I don't know anything about, APIs. I didn't know anything. Yeah. So I was like, okay. And they knocked on my door to start as a CSM, like a customer success manager. And I remember being like, yeah, but I know a lot about this industry. I know the ins and outs of how a brand's mind works and what
if you work brand side, this is my opinion, you can take your pick of any e-commerce SaaS company because they really want that experience. That's really, because they're basically selling into, so I feel like you are a big get for them. I hope you got a big salary.
I will say Recharge, it is the best company I've worked for, and I have a long road ahead, but it's an amazing place to be. I've been there 3 years for a reason. It's ran by the leadership team, is probably one of the strongest leadership teams I've ever seen. Not to say there's, of course, things that come with any company. I've really learned this. It's never greener on the other side. But picking a place and choosing and deciding to stay at a place that believes in its people, and the founder, Oshin, really, it does start from the top, and that's really what he stands for. He believes in his people, and he wants to see them succeed, and you really do feel that, I would say, every day. And we're a remote first company. They started this company completely remote 10 years ago. So before remote was remote, they were already doing it. So I think they do it beautifully. And I work with a lot of amazing people, and people is what makes the difference when you're working anywhere.
Totally.
Right? So yeah, I don't know how I was like, now I could just go ramble off about what I do now. But when they found me, I thought it was an amazing opportunity. And to go back to where I'm sitting and why I really started empowHER had a lot to do with Recharge. I think I was given a lot of opportunities the first 2 years, especially. And being a young woman, they must have saw something in me to give me those opportunities. A lot of speaking opportunities. I hated speaking. I talk about stage fright, and I grew up dancing, so I was always on a stage. But like when you go and you are representing a company and you're talking about a product and you're talking directly to founders of brands that are looking to grow and retain their business, especially in a world right now, this economy is so unstable. There's so much happening. There's so much volatility. How are brands going to succeed? And the success rates of a lot of startups are so low. So working for a company that like believes also in their brands and like wants their brands to succeed, because when the brands succeed, we do.
Tell the audience a little bit about Recharge. Like, what is Recharge? Yeah. What does Recharge do?
Recharge simplifies merchants' growth. So we do that. We are a subscription platform. That is, think of it as like the bread and butter to the company. Companies that are looking to grow and retain their revenue.
And what are some companies that use Recharge subscriptions?
Well, Harry's, Quip, Glossier, anything that you can
subscribe to. Yeah, like you want to subscribe to get your Glossier mascara every month or whatever.
Yeah. Anything that's like reoccurring revenue that a company is selling. It could be a service or a tangible product. We provide them that subscription
And what's your job title at Recharge?
Well, right now I'm no longer in customer success. I moved to the marketing team. So I lead actually like our influencer marketing program.
Oh, cool.
Very different, especially within SaaS and tech, right? You think when you think of influencer, what do you think of? Like influencing products, clothes. Yeah, like this is the mascara I use.
I love that content actually. So.
I live for it. This is why it was so exciting for me, right? Because I'm like,
I grew up with that.
Right. Yeah. We both did. And I think it's really interesting to bring influencers into SaaS. And like, these are huge ticket price points, right? We're not selling mascara or a lip gloss. We're selling a software.
Yeah.
And these decisions that are being made by like the economic buyer or the decision maker at a company, there's a lot that goes into it. So every company has like product marketing. You have a great marketing team that markets the product in a different way, all the features and tools that Recharge have. It's subscription. It's a subscription management tool, but it's way more than that. You can do everything from bundling to personalizing the cancellation experience, like mitigate churn by personalizing that experience through a cancellation flow, or reward your customer. When you think of like subscription and loyalty, I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Like your most loyal subscribers, why are you not rewarding them? And how do you do that? And how do you build that out? And what does that look like? So I think it's been very interesting the past 3 years. I've been actually seeing that evolution of Recharge from that just subscription management tool to this whole growth and retention platform that will literally, I would say, increase the customer experience tenfold. Everything from when they land on the homepage to then they go to the PDP to the checkout.
PDP, product detail page. The product page.
Yeah. So to the checkout.
We're so in this.
I know. I should. I know. You
acronyms.
Can't. Yeah. You explain the acronyms.
I'm the same way.
But to also like the post purchase, like what happens after they subscribe and check out.
And if you think, just kind of putting your mind in Glossier, imagine they are sold nationwide, worldwide actually. And so think about the volumes, the sheer amount of sales and money that's going into these experiences that you have to optimize for your store. So
there's so much that goes into it. And then retaining that customer, it's expensive, right? So
there's a whole industry around.
It's a whole industry.
They have like conferences dedicated to subscriptions.
Yes,
it's huge. Exactly. That's one of the biggest ones too. So interesting. So you are on the influencer marketing side. What does your day-to-day look like? Do you talk to influencers?
Yeah, and the influencers are very different. It's not like your fashion influencers or beauty influencers. These are people that have really large voices and a lot of sway, I would say, in the Shopify ecosystem specifically. So maybe they do fractional work as like fractional CMOs or fractional CROs, or they could just be like consultants, right? They consult a lot of different brands.
Are they people like on YouTube and like LinkedIn famous? Or sometimes they're like low key and they have a lot of influence, like quiet influence?
It's both.
I'm just curious, like thinking about influencer in a different way because
it is. And that's what I'm building, which is unique. I've ripped apart this program 6 times. It's only been alive not even a year. So it has been a very educational time period for me and Recharge. We're learning so much. So yes, we're doing both. I would say there's a lot of quiet ambassadors and influencers that we work with and that they're behind the scenes working with the brands that they work with and referring Recharge if it's the right fit, helping build Recharge into a brand strategy. So that's been, I would say, pretty successful. Again, it's pretty new. So, and success doesn't happen overnight. I would go to my boss and be like, this isn't working. And she's like, it's a brand new program and it's not really done. There's a few really good companies that do this. Like Salesforce is getting into it. HubSpot is just getting into it as well. Gorgeous has been doing it for a while. And I think Triple Whale has a really good program as well. So there's not that many, I would say, that you're seeing it done very successfully. Anything I do, I really want it to be the most successful. And I want us to honestly kind of be the North Star for a lot of other companies and platforms out there, agencies that are thinking about doing this, because using external factors is only going to, I would say, increase your brand voice and
external
take it further.
Factors being like third parties that can be champions of your brand or brand advocates.
Both, I would say.
Like tool advocates.
Yeah, tool advocates, brand advocates, but they don't also have to, the people that we work with, I tell them straight up, I want you to be an extension of Recharge. I don't want you to just do this. There's a lot of people out there that will just do something for a check. That I've had to really weed through. I want people that really believe in the platform and see that it's really making a difference in merchants.
Because also like people are their influence is only as powerful as like how the people that they're influencing, they believe them to be delivering sincere, authentic value.
Authentic value. And I think people can see through now if someone just does like a check for a job. I call it like the pay to plays.
Yeah.
Pay to plays I will not do. Don't come to me for a pay to play. I am all about like that long-term
relationship. It doesn't work on a business level too. Like
no. Yeah. I hope I don't think I would get in trouble for saying this because these people outwardly support us, but like I work with Ari Murray, for example. She's amazing in this ecosystem, a powerhouse of a woman, and has been a great partner to Recharge. And we're just getting started with this relationship, and I'm really excited to be part of her Go to Millions family. And she's really excited to be a part of the Recharge family. I would also say someone that I work extremely close with, and we actually just brought her to our sales kickoff in Charleston, is Grace Clark. She's a fractional CMO. She's worked with brands Estee Lauder, Madewell, and she has a real, not just opinion, but she is able to really help brands. See, I love the fractional work. I think it's amazing. They're in every touch point. They know what's going on.
Yeah, because you have to be. That's your bread and butter as a fractional CMO. You have to have your ear to the ground and knowing what's working. And they have the visibility of having done that for multiple companies. So they're, I feel like, a really good resource for any business owner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the agencies too.
I mean, they're just so connected. And I think I learned this because I don't work on the brand side anymore. Everyone's connected. Everyone can recommend something in an instant. And I'm like, okay, who's influential that people really like lean on and be like, okay, I need a subscription platform. Who am I going to ask?
And like also who's doing really good work. That's in a related question. It's like who's actually, what brands are really disrupting and like who's behind those success stories. And that's one way to like pull back the layers and try to find who that influencer, consultant, star is.
Yeah.
Oftentimes very quiet.
I think those are like,
this is how the e-commerce industry is really moving, is like there's a lot of quiet influencers there. Not so loud on LinkedIn. They may never post, but they
may not have any social presence.
Yeah, not at all.
It's really interesting. As much as like social media plays a huge part in what we do and influencing and all that, it's word of mouth still. That it will always be like the number one way of like marketing anything. And I truly believe that. It's like people want to hear experiences. Another thing that I've done with this program is actually invested back into the brands we work with. So I'm really excited about some of the stories we're going to highlight. We're starting a video series called Built to Last. And really Recharge is that platform powering brands to build routines for their customers. If you're thinking of your morning, what is your morning routine actually, Cass?
Oh my
Do you
God.
have a morning routine? Is there a product that you use every morning?
Honestly, I'm like, brush my teeth. I'm like, oh my God, when's my first call? Like,
the chaos, like
chapstick is part of it.
Okay, chapstick.
I try to do sunscreen.
Well, we love our sunscreen.
Tinted sunscreen. Actually, I love Korean beauty. I'm really into it because it's like really light and I'm kind of acne prone. So I always like to use really thin. So yeah, pretty much it'd be like a serum, like a moisturizing serum, and then I do a sunscreen.
So those brands that you're using, I don't know, like are you loyal to a certain brand or do you test a couple different brands?
I'm such a junkie. With,
I'm a bit of a junkie too. I'm not going to lie, but there are a couple brands that I am very loyal to.
Yes.
And those are the brands that a lot of brands, if you want to be like that brand tomorrow that's really thinking ahead, think about your customer's daily routine. Where do you fit in? Don't take the data that you have, but also like survey that. Like where do you fit into your customer's schedule, not the opposite way around, right? Like we usually market brands, tend to market their products to influence you to buy and to fit their product into your schedule, right? Let's do the opposite. What are we doing? What is your customer doing in the morning? What are they doing in the middle of the day? And what are they doing at night? And where do you fit in? And how do you talk to them on a regular basis that's not annoying and keep them coming back for more and more? And I think that's why it's such an exciting time being part of Recharge. It goes beyond just the product. It actually goes into the mindset of the customer. So when you're in the mindset of the customer, you can really help your merchant build a really cool strategy.
At the end of the day, you want to meet your customer where they are.
100%.
The customer can't be expected to bend over backwards because that's where you are not going to keep them. Yeah. So I want to talk about empowHER.
Yeah.
So start from the beginning. When did the idea come to you? What were your first baby steps? How does that fit into your full-time gig with Recharge?
Okay. So it's very interesting. I've always been a girl's girl. I've always had the same best friend group since I was, I don't know,
Cute.
14.
You so are.
I really do love my women. I think women are probably the most unbelievable superheroes. I don't think we understand everything that, like, people just don't understand everything we can do. Sorry, men. Like, you just don't understand. We literally can have 12 conversations with ourselves happening all at once. Be working on a project, maybe sick at the same time, helping a friend. Like, we are like the world's best multitaskers. And I just think we're so amazing. And I will always be very loud about that. But I think over the years, I've experienced a lot of competition. We're also raised to compete with one another. There's only, we're told, so many spots at the top. We see it all the time too. So honestly, empowered, to kind of get back to why I really started it, it was really interesting. It had to do with Recharge. Like I said before, they put me on a speaker circuit for a while and I was going to a lot of events, a lot of conferences. I was speaking, which was amazing opportunities, but I was noticing it was white men all the time. It was just like these panels would just be white men and then maybe one token woman. And that token woman, it was like always like kind of the same one on the circuit too. And I was just like, wait, I'm so confused. First of all, if you look at consumerism, like the top consumer is women, right? A lot of our products are actually created by men, which is like a whole other thing. We're like the top consumers. Then I look at these companies and you look who's working at these companies. It's like the majority there's a lot of women. And I'm like, why aren't the women speaking? Like they're the ones building and creating and have a lot of great ideas. So I think it just came to a point where I was, I just want to create my own community. I was like, there's a lot of great communities out there. We were talking about Rebecca Minkoff's Female Founder Collective. their female world. There's like so many. There actually are, but they're like hidden. You don't see them as much. You actually have to do a lot of
to find them,
find
search
them.
And my male co-founder was the one to actually bring the Female Founder Collective to my attention, and he was like, "You got to go to this." So that's where I was yesterday.
My long-term goal is to take empowHER to its own agency, its own something. I don't know really what that is, because I think the mindset people have when they want to start their own thing, they're like, I just want instant success, instant gratification. I'm like that. I think it's normal, but I just knew if I was going to do this, I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to take my time with it. I wasn't racing to be something. I really want to build something that's impactful and makes a difference for women.
I've been thinking a lot about this too, and I think that we're in this ecosystem of e-commerce, and there's a lot of SaaS companies and tech companies, and there's a whole industry around, of course, you're selling to merchants and you're having these events and you're having these sponsored events and dinners, and I feel like oftentimes they can be the way you build relationships can be very short-sighted, and I think that what I'm trying to do, and I see this in you and I see this in your organization with empowHER, you are playing for the long game. You have to have authentic connections with people. You have to get to know your community really well to make any recommendation that's worth its salt.
100%.
You have to know these women and you have to care. And I see that in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, it means a lot, because I never started this to make a buck.
Yeah.
I don't make a buck.
No.
I don't make anything.
Yeah.
Anything that my sponsors are able to provide, and it's a hustle. It is a grind trying to get sponsorships.
I know
that. Like, it is not an easy thing.
We both do.
A lot of different events and
for our companies
both personal and for our day to day. And any sponsor wants a return. You would respect that. You're giving money. You want some sort of return. So I started very small, and my first event was a coffee meetup in New York in Flatiron. I paid my own money, $200, and I had all these women come. There was probably maybe 20 of us at a local coffee shop, and I just said, coffee on me. And it was the feeling I get after bringing women together and just hosting even like a small coffee meetup. I can't ever explain it. Nothing will ever. It's so much joy. It really proves to me that this is so needed. It's not wanted. It's needed.
Totally.
And people will show up. These women will show up. So I started small. And then I started to be like, okay, I'm in the e-commerce ecosystem. This is the world I know. And that's what I was just going to focus on at first. And that's what I did. My first sponsor, and shout out to Kate Stevens, the co-founder of Bridge.
She's amazing.
The most fantastic woman I've ever met. And I consider her a mentor to me. Anything I have a question or concern about or need advice, I call Kate. And I said, will you sponsor my first women's dinner? And it was a Galentine's theme. And that's how it really started. I brought amazing, it was 14 women, but I would say the levels of when you're looking at roles and diversity, they came from all the e-commerce space, but we had a couple founders. I had, at the time, the VP of CX, Amanda from Love Wellness there, the head of PR of Satva. There's so many amazing people that came to this dinner. And I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. And you know how nerve-wracking it is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know. I still don't know. But you figure it out.
Yeah.
And the dinner was successful. And I just started doing little things. I was building just slowly. And so it was one event and it was 15 women. Then it turned in maybe to an event of 30 women. And I started branching out into different, I would say, verticals and industries, because I didn't want it to just be a network for e-com. I want it to be just a network of badass women that can connect, can give recommendations, can provide resources, can give advice.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's just different when you're building something that you feel safe in and you don't feel there's a competition. So one of my events was working with the amazing Kirsten Jordan, who is the she's mortgage broker for Douglas Elliman and was on $1 Million Listing New York. And my best friend is an amazing realtor that works with her. And we did this amazing event at a penthouse in Chelsea and brought 30 women and actually brought in a mortgage broker. And I'm probably saying she's not a mortgage broker, Kirsten Jordan. She's what is it called? Just a broker. She's a broker. I don't know my real estate terms. Sorry, ladies. Lindsay's going to be you totally messed that up. But we brought in from the bank side, from the real estate side, and we just had a really real conversation. We had a panel, and it was 30 women in a room, and we were talking about what would it take for you to make your first big purchase? Because when we think of making first purchases, you always think about doing it with a partner. I mean, I did for the longest time. I'm when I buy a house, it has to be with my husband or a partner of some way. It's no, you can do a lot independently, and women are doing a lot independently now. Marriage rates are down, birth rates are down. Women are just doing things a lot on their own. They're finding a lot more success on their own. They're feeling a lot more independent, and they don't need that, what we thought we were like told that we need. So I think it's just like a beautiful thing. So it just started like that, and then it just built on from there. I keep meeting more amazing women at these events, and they're like, I want to do something with you. That's like how I met you, right? One of the entity of empowHER is called She Innovates, and I'm the co-founder of She Innovates. I have two other amazing co-founders, Jess and Dylan, that own Midcoast, and they are also in this ecosystem, the e-commerce space. And when I went to them over a year ago and I said, hey, I want to build badass women's summit, like a summit with no fluff, like a summit where women can come and we can have sick panels with founders and women executives, and can have some really cool people up there that are teaching and educating right now in the e-commerce space. And that's what we've done. We're now going on our third She Innovates. I met you at She Innovates. I think that's where I first met you. And She Innovates has turned into this like very successful one-day women's summit that it's not like we have plans to expand this and keep growing it really big. And it's like our love child, and she's amazing. But yeah, so I think, just creating this space where women can come, they can feel safe. So don't you think it's such a different energy?
Totally.
Way different energy.
Totally.
When you walk into a room of women that are all there to really support, learn, and just champion one another.
And I mean, you talk about social capital, and I think that for generations, men have had an edge, in many ways still do. And in business, we couldn't even have like a bank account. We couldn't take loans in our own name until like fairly recently. And
was it like 1960 something? I don't even know. 80 something? I don't know.
So I think it's really important. It feels really true to me, especially at this time in my life, that we try to shorten that 5 generations to reach gender parity, which is such BS. Any way that we can speed that up and like give ourselves, support ourselves. I do as much as I can for younger girls. I'm like, we gotta
Yeah, we got to stick together and we got to help. And I think it's so funny. I would love to get also your opinion on this. I find it interesting. I talk to a lot of men and they ask me, what are you building? I'll never forget this one question. Some founder asked me and he's like, I don't get it. I don't really get what you're building.
That's also an incredibly...
Oh, yeah. It's really funny. I was just like, okay, I don't really know what you don't get about it. Yeah, I don't get you
as a person.
What's your question, sir?
Sir.
What am I building? I'm building a place where women are making a huge difference, and they are not only championing one another, like I said, but they're actually providing a huge difference. I have actually seen the most amazing, not just like friendship, but like business deals come out of it. I've seen business won. I've seen people help each other find new opportunities.
And like introductions to like buyers, suppliers. Like, what are you using? We had an issue with this solution on our website. Mm-hmm. What are you using? 100%. And it's like, you don't even need to listen. I mean, Nicole and I love to be a source of information for people, but I think what is so cool is like, if you work at a brand, you can meet another woman who works at a similar brand or like another merchant and ask her how she's solving things. And I think the information sharing is incredibly useful, and I think it's really, really important. And I feel like you're creating a space where there's a lot of women in the room, and it's beautiful because the women in the room want to help each other because they feel safe to do so. They know it's a space that you've built authentically. Your heart's in the right place. And so it's really cool.
And I totally agree with you. With all this promotion of equality and women's rights and all of this, it's been very challenging for men in the corporate being, and people aren't talking about that. We've been talking about it for centuries. Like, we're tired. I'm so sorry that you feel intimidated. I really think they feel so insecure. And this is going to kind of ruffle a lot of feathers, I think, but it needs to be said. They're upset because we found our voices. Is that why you're upset? We make you feel awkward. We make you feel uncomfortable.
I think it's a misunderstanding.
Yeah. I don't really know. I think it just bothers me a bit because I sit there and I think you're uncomfortable because we found our voices and we can stand on our own 2 feet and we don't need you.
It's also change is hard.
Yeah.
For folks. And for everyone like that, there's also really amazing men like Amandeep Singh.
Yes.
I work at an agency and he is an amazing, true champion of women. He was a big promoter of me doing this podcast. He's like, Cass, you gotta
do it.
Post it live.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? And he even will send things to me periodically, women's events. He's like, you should go to this. This would be perfect for you. And I feel like that's so beautiful. So
it is. It's like twofold. And I always try to preface that because I think people can take little things that I say and take it out of like when they hear certain things. But I'm just like, I'm pretty real when it comes to it. Yes, it's the anti-boys club, but it's also, I'm talking to a lot of women all the time of women pitting each other against one another. That's a whole other topic and situation that we're dealing with because it's actually creating those barriers that we're trying to break. Sometimes I do very much believe we have the power to change a lot, but we also are the ones in our own ways sometimes. And, you know, you and I have talked about it. There's a lot of amazing men, there's a lot of amazing women, and then there's always going to be the kerfuffle in the middle that are just stirring it up.
The world is a big place. People are very different.
People have a lot of opinions.
Their own baggage, their own, like, life that they lived that led them to be the way that they are. And I think on the topic of women being pit against other women, I think maybe a part of that could be historically and still today, very few women are occupying these positions of executive leadership. And if you see that for generations, one way to look at that would be like, oh, there's only so many slots there.
Yeah.
And if she's there, that means I'm not there. And not saying that's the case for everyone, but I could see that being maybe how some women think.
I mean, I see it every day still. I think because, like, I call it the token woman at the top. I think a lot of companies will say, oh, no, we give it doesn't matter your gender, your race, any of that. Like, we give everyone the fair shot. And then you look at it and it's still like the one woman and she's your CMO. And then you have like all like surrounded by the rest of like the male senior leadership. I think it's like, again, it's what you're saying. We think there's only these limited spots and we almost create that competition within ourselves to get this one spot. Because we're not rising together, we're not being able to break that mold. Mm-hmm. And I am seeing it's happening. We are breaking it. It's just slower than we would hope it to be. And I would say to any woman out there, no matter what you do for a living, we really should be championing each other and everything that we're doing. If your friend gets a promotion, or maybe that girl you don't really like at work gets that promotion, that should actually be enough because in the way, like, you're watching one of your peers succeed. You're watching someone get to that position they want, and your time will come too. We all are on our own journey, and I think it's really important to remember that. I think it goes back into comparison. Comparison is like the root of all evil. I swear it is. When we compare ourselves to each other, we're not each other, right? You're your own person.
For me, what drives me is like, I have had some women in my career really help me out, and from a place of really wanting to support other women, because they helped me in a position where I wasn't able to, like, certainly not give back to them. It was such a power thing where it was just like, they really helped me out. And so I feel like for me, I really want to pay that forward, and I want to pay that forward 1,000,000 times fold, because I want every generation basically to have 1,000,000 of those women. I want it to fan out. I want it to fan out, basically. I'm not describing this well, but I feel like that's how we're going to change. That's how it's going to be a better world for our daughters and, like, for the girls that are younger than us. And, like, it's so beautiful that you are building something like that. I feel so grateful to be a part of that journey, collaborating with you on this recent event. Hopefully that's the first of many, many. We're getting good feedback. People said they had fun, so.
People had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is just the beginning. And if I were to leave anybody, like, watching and listening, it's just stay true to yourself. Mm-hmm. Stay true to yourself. Never compare yourself to the woman next to you. Never compare yourself, of course, to a man. But it's also, like, really find that belief in you.
And if this resonates with you, give, because other women are watching you give too. And I feel like that is also has brought some opportunities to me because people have noticed me giving,
right.
And that's been like
back to you.
That's been an awesome surprise. So I think that's also just in this world. If you're someone who gives, and of course advocate for yourself, I'm not saying that, but I mean, if you come from a place of wanting to support other women genuinely and authentically, there are other women out there that are like that too, that see that and appreciate that and want to lift you up for doing that, for being part of that change. So
bad noise always gets amplified more than good noise, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much good, and there's so many amazing women doing incredible work, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. I know, like, we're both entrepreneurs at heart. We both are building our own, like, paths, and I know the one thing I always say to myself, I know I'm going to be successful, and no matter what I do.
I mean, you already are.
Thank you. I do appreciate that because, and I think you have to recognize it. Don't think you're vain. Don't think you're being cocky. Like, always keep level-headed. My dad always tells me, remember where you came from, remember who you are, and that's all you need in life. Like, never get too big for your bridges. And I have seen so many people, they get opportunities and it kind of goes to their head and they change who they are completely. And it's honestly really, like, sad to see it, but it happens. conversations. And I always, no matter how much success I will have, I will always remember like what my dad tells me. I always remember that like little girl who I truly am. I'll always remember that it's not important at the end of the day to have a bajillion followers or millions of dollars, even though that would be nice. But like, it's not about that. It's about building something and staying true to yourself. And I just want the women that are in part of my community. I just started that WhatsApp group for empowHER community. And I've had already so many women signing up, and I just want each other to continue this movement together, because as long as we are in lockstep, we are changing it. We're changing that 5-generation bullshit. We're changing the way people are looking at us, people are hearing us. We're changing the way government sees us. I don't want to end my life knowing that I didn't help change.
Yeah. And you and I, we want to build long careers. And part of that, of building a long, successful career, is being true and giving people really good advice and not being so short-sighted and transactional about the relationships we're building. What is one thing you want to leave the audience with? Maybe, I mean, you kind of have already ended it with like some great pearls of wisdom and advice, but
so that was definitely like my advice, or like, I don't know, at least my point of view. I'm really truly am honored to be here today. I honestly think what you just said about when you're giving, you get it's like this beautiful cycle, and I really feel it happening in my life right now. So I'm really thankful, and I wake up every day and as trying to balance a full-time job and create something that I want to build into a full-time job and full-time career is not easy. I live in chaos. I call it organized chaos. But one thing I want to leave you women with is we are hosting She Innovates, the third She Innovates, May 7th in New York City at Ludlow House. Tickets are on sale now. And again, the keynote speaker.
I was part of one of them. It was great. I met so many women and women that I end up interviewing on this podcast.
Yes.
Like several.
See, full circle. So it's an amazing place to come network, learn, take tangible insights from literally founders and operators and executives, amazing keynotes. It's also very inspirational. I think last time there was so many, like, not a dry eye in the room when Loretta Sophie spoke, an Nordstrom executive. It's just an amazing day. You leave really, really full.
And everyone follow empowHER.
Yes.
So on Instagram, plug all your...
Yeah, so I have Instagram, empowHER_commerce. We'll link that. We have the new website that just launched, which we are building out a mentor and mentee program. It's been a dream of mine to create this membership program. So that will launch this summer. I'm actually looking for mentors. So if you are interested, please reach out. And then I'm also looking for local ambassadors. I have a local ambassador here in New York who is amazing. And that's the way that we can just keep building this community. If you want to host an event for empowHER and you're in LA or Boston, let's do it. Let's create together. I'm so into collaborating. So yeah, follow all my socials. And I'm like the easiest person that I would say to get a hold of. I love connecting and talking. I could talk all day. So but you could also email me at Nicole@empowHERcommerce.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. I'm so happy.